That's-
Okay.
All right, so a couple of things about VS Code, our VS Code extension effort. Basically, the idea is to start bringing Pyrsia to developers. So keep in mind that this effort targeting actual developers, not like continuous delivery or any stuff like that. The idea is that we attract or let developers know about Pyrsia through the VS Code extension. So number one, where the code is stored right now, we do have a repository which is called Pyrsia VS Code extension. And majority of my work, well, all my work goes to the branch which is called prototype, because I'm mostly prototyping and trying to figure out how Pyrsia can interact with basically with IDE, not necessarily with VS Code, but in general, how we can make it work with IDE. So if you, once again, if you go to this branch prototype, you can see what's going on and what is being pushed. It's quite active. We have a lot of, I'm merging this on daily basis and adding features. There is a README MD, which tells how to build or use this project. Majority of people using VS Code, so it could be, if you want to give a shot and try it, it's quite easy. What you need is VS Code 1.7 or newer, same story, and Node 19.x to build the code and use it. How to run it: npm install in the repository, npm run watch. Those two commands needs to be executed to be able to start the extension. Tests, and this is more about if somebody's planning to do development, how to test the code and how to do the before PR kind of things checks. Number two, we have a document which broadly talks about this effort. I'm not updating on daily basis, so some of these things might be a little bit behind. So if you have any questions or you think that some features are missing, just let me know. So this is from the documentation / organization perspective. Let's look in the ID itself. I'm gonna close this. So that once again, the project is 100% VS Code extension oriented. The technology which we use, or Microsoft suggests, is TypeScript. So most of our code is in TypeScript. Is basically, if you're not familiar with TypeScript, it's basically JavaScript with some enforcements about object types and classes. So how to start a project? Once again, you open this you open the repository or folder of the repository in the VS Code, and then press F5. What's gonna happen then? The extension will be, let me close this. The extension will be opened. So let's do that. Actually, this is it. This is the extension. So on the left side, you see the Pyrsia right here, a new icon, which indicates our that extension is installed. Don't pay attention to this icon. I made it. It looks crappy, but eventually we'll have something better. Now, what the first attempt of version 1.0 or prototype is focusing on basically this part tracks the connected node, or because obviously to interact with a node, you need to be able to specify where there's no it and how to connect it. So this tells user how to connect to the node. So there will be if user starts VS Code and the node is not running on localhost 7888, actually in this case is 9, but 7888, then you will see something like that. So immediately we suggesting two things. Users can read how to install and configure Pyrsia. So if, for example, user clicks on that, it takes you to a tutorial. So if you don't have Pyrsia yet, so that takes you to the place where you can just basically, read it, and depending on US, install it. Another thing is, it's possible that your node running on a different port. In my case, I think it runs on 7888. Let me just make sure. Yes. So let's do that. Let's click on this one, and you'll see that the input box or input text box is opened, where you can define what node you would like to connect to. In my case, it's 7888. So I'm just gonna type localhost 7888 and click enter. As you can see, the change of the status of nodes changed. So we are connected to localhost 778, and it also shows you how many peers you are connected to. Let me just close some stuff here because it's really bothersome. So that's the node status, and we can expand this with maybe other functionality like starting and stopping node. But it really depends what direction we're going to take Pyrsia, if we will encourage people to install Pyrsia locally, or if we gonna more likely to tell people to use some remote node somewhere else. So that one is responsible for interaction with Node. Another important thing is available integration, as I call it. Maybe it's not really a fortunate name for this tab, and I'm still looking for a better name. But the idea behind this part is to scan your file system, and depending on what technologies you have installed on your local machines, this tab will suggest where you can insert or start using Pyrsia. So for example, right now it looks for the Docker files and insert Pyrsia, or adds the Docker register, Pyrsia register to it. So how it works, users see the list available integrations. Once again, right now we only support Docker, clicks on it, see the config files being open, and the Pyrsia shows, and the ID our extension asks the question, if you like to add a Pyrsia to Docker configuration, you click yes, and the integration or the new register mirror is added to the configuration. The config file is automatically saved, and from this moment on, I think you should be able to start using Pyrsia. I think that in case of Docker, and it depends on the integration, it's also necessary to restart the Docker. So I think this part is missing. But you got an idea how I'm planning to make or let people know how to integrate Pyrsia on the different technologies. And this part of extension will be built around that. Maven will be similar. Once we support Maven, we also can search for Maven, not so much POMX files, but more of the configuration files, where we can add another register or replace the current register they use, for example, Maven Central. So this is how we're gonna deal with make or help developers to integrate with Pyrsia. Another important thing is help and feedback. So obviously, for most of developers, Pyrsia is still not well understand. So another idea is to provide a help and possibility of feedback directly from the IDE extension. So you install extension, and you have immediately access to Pyrsia quick installation. So you click on that, it takes you to the quick installations in the similar fashion as I already showed you. Another one is watch Pyrsia tutorials. That takes us to our Pyrsia OSS YouTube. Then there is a read Pyrsia documentation. So that takes us to the docs of Pyrsia. So user can go to any of the options here. What else we have? Get involved. This is a mention of our project, or it takes us to GitHub. So if any user is interested in actually and get involved into Pyrsia project, there is a link from the ID extension, and report an issue takes you to our Pyrsia GitHub issues. So this is the current state. It's a very early state. I spent maybe 2 weeks working on it. It does include the learning the IPA of VSCode extension, but I think there is a lot of potential. And if you have any ideas, or if you have any feedback, please let me know. I think that would be nice to have Pyrsia extension in the store, in the extension store. So if you type Pyrsia, the user will find our extension there, so they can install it. And maybe this will help users to, or encourage them to install Pyrsia, and bring some users for Pyrsia. One of the things that what I'm trying to avoid is, before we release version 1.0, I want to make sure that it's stable and it actually brings some value. So once again, it's a prototype. If you try to use it and still has problems, bugs, etc., and some missing features. So this is pretty much it. Let me know if you have any comments or feedback.